Welcome to part 10 of our video history of Rossmoor. I'm your narrator, John Nutley. In the previous episode, we talked about the coming together of the people, the mutuals, and the Golden Rain Foundation. In this episode, we will continue the process and make plans for the future. Before we look within Rossmoor, let's look at what was occurring outside the gates. Rossmoorians are affected by what is going on outside of Rossmoor. Some of them are more important than others. Here are a few of them. On February 8, 1995, the Payless drugstore was opened on the site of the former Union Oil gas station at the corner of Tice Creek Boulevard and Rossmoor Parkway. The city of Walnut Creek and the county approved the transfer of the fire station to Rossmoor Parkway between the old Globe site and St. Anne's Church. It will be the new home of Engine Number 3. Paramedics were added at a later date. Tice Valley Park itself will undergo complete renovation. It will have a drained playing field, a children's playground, restrooms, and landscaping around the Globe site. Later in the year, a joint venture was initiated between Walnut Creek and the Jewish Community Center for the construction of a gymnasium for general use. A similar arrangement had been made between the school district and the city in another part of town. Another activity that the residents will appreciate is the expansion of the Safeway store in the shopping center. It will have a delicatessen and other services. One item that all who drive will like is the widening of Olympic from Tice Valley to the new 680 interchange. This will speed traffic and give access to central Walnut Creek. There will be turn lanes on Tice Valley Boulevard. The post office on Rossmoor Parkway is small and often overcrowded. It was decided to separate the customer services from the delivery men. A new postal store supplying all types of services, including mailboxes, was established in the first Interstate Bank building, Wells Fargo, in 2007. This brings us to the gates of Rossmoor. In November of 1995, the Golden Rain Foundation proposed a new Entry Plaza. The original building was too small and lacked modern conveniences for public safety. The city considered it unsafe and made several recommendations. Plans were proposed and submitted to the city. The new structure would be larger, have wider kiosks, and be equipped with electronic controls. It would also have a fourth lane for cars. It would be constructed 30 feet in front of the current structure in order to facilitate widening of the street. In January, the Design Review Committee approved the new entry. The plans were finalized and the Walnut Creek Board approved the plans in May. Construction was to begin in the fall, but work did not begin until April of 1997. A difficulty during construction was the necessity of maintaining a smooth traffic flow. This was accomplished with few interruptions. In this picture, one can see behind the new building the old entry. By November, work was nearing completion. The new entry was operational in late November, and the old building was torn down. The new entry was, in a sense, a prologue to the General Plan Task Force. A growing concern of the Golden Rain Board and the residents was the build-out of Rossmoor. And early in 2000, it was expected that the final units would be sold. Questions arose: what needed to be done to ensure a steady inflow of new residents? What new structures needed to be built to entice buyers? And how would we pay for these services? The Golden Rain Foundation went to court to seek answers. It petitioned the court to decide the legality of membership fees. An act, the Davis-Sterling Act, made such fees illegal for homeowners associations. The Golden Rain Foundation affirmed that it was not a homeowners association, but a separate entity that offered services to homeowners. It was the decision of the Superior Court that such fees were legal for the Golden Rain Foundation. The Golden Rain Foundation Board then appointed an ad hoc General Plan Task Force Committee headed by Joanne McClellan to study the situation and make recommendations. This committee met and requested ideas and suggestions from residents. Several meetings were held prior to a town hall meeting in which more ideas were presented and suggestions made. The committee made its report to the Golden Rain Foundation, and in July of 1997, it was accepted. Some of its recommendations were: expand the Gateway Complex, build a fitness center, create a dedicated space for card players, enlarge the library, promote community-wide planning, and relocate staff and expand the facilities. The question now became, how will we implement the plan and in what order? While the board was considering its options, several work orders needed to be acted upon. A new roof was placed on the Gateway Clubhouse, but a trellis for the mall was put on hold. Mark Heptick, the golf pro, worked on new plans for the golf course. The board also proposed a new maintenance facility in the Creekside area. These and other parts of the task force recommendation will be discussed at the appropriate time. A concern of Rossmoor at the beginning of 1995 was the status of UDC Homes. The builder of new units in Rossmoor reported a loss of $23 million in 1994. This loss would affect revenue for Golden Rain Foundation. If the 561 units planned were not built, GRF would lose quite a sum of money. UDC assured us that the units would be built. In March, they presented to Walnut Creek their plans for 235 units in Neighborhood 9. 2 months later, UDC Homes was restructured through the help of DMB Homes of Phoenix. The Golden Rain Foundation, still not sure of its future income, decided not to take up the options to purchase Lot 7 of the Del Valle High School properties. This ended a 7-year study for the 200-acre parcel. In August, access to the Comstock units was enhanced by the widening of the street. The Design Review Committee and the Planning Commission approved the plans for Neighborhood 9. UDC set plans for creating a berm along Golden Rain Road with the excess dirt from their construction. As the new year began, plans were being readied for Neighborhood 4. This involved removing of some oak trees. This created a protest from some Rossmoorians. Calm was restored when the number of removals was reduced and the plans were presented for new plantings. Walnut Creek accepted the new plans. In May, UDC proposed to change the plans from apartments to single-unit homes. These would better fit the hillside. In July, the Design Review Committee approved the plans for Neighborhood 4. By November, UDC was ready to proceed with construction in both 4 and 9. Sales for both new buildings and resales were high. 579 units were sold that year. Work progressed on Eagle Ridge, Neighborhood 9. Pinnacle Ridge houses were being constructed and the demand for new units was growing. By October, models were open for inspection. The Golden Rain Foundation accepted the UDC plans for landscaping of the new development. As 1998 began, it looked like UDC Homes was set to complete the remaining buildings planned for Rossmoor. It was now time for the GRF to move on with its plans for the future of Rossmoor. Before we look at GRF operations, let us see what the residents were doing to make life interesting in Rossmoor. Social activities familiar to us from previous programs continued throughout this period. The various state clubs, Hawaii, Great Lakes, Rocky Mountain, Golden State, etc., celebrated their common interests. Other groups enjoyed table games like bridge, checkers, chess, and dominoes. For some others, there were the physical activities, such as swimming, hiking, dancing, fitness classes, golf, and lawn bowlings. Others preferred the more sedentary activities. There was a new library, books to read, new movies to watch, and day trips to concerts and performances arranged by the recreation department. The snack bar at Creekside served more than just the golfers. Friday lunch continues to serve healthy appetites at Hillside Clubhouse, and Chat and Chow was ready at Gateway. One could drop in at the Redwood Room if coffee, cookies, and conversation was all you wanted. Almost every club had lunches or dinners for its members and guests to build friendships. Rossmoorians were also helpful when it came to giving food away. Each year, prior to Thanksgiving, there was a food drive that brought in tons of canned foods and dried cereals and other useful food items. It was always a successful community effort. Community involvement is evident in the flu and health clinics each fall. Volunteers assisted members of the medical center in keeping us healthy. The flea market and the fall bazaar were other events with resident participation, and everyone showed up to celebrate the 4th of July. Activities Day gave clubs the opportunity to show up their fun and service aspects. Even in joyful times, there was a sad note. A club might decide to cease operation or merge with another. Perhaps the saddest is the loss of a dear friend who served the community for many years. Such a person was Lucy Morton, who for many years headed the miniature theater. Her loss was an end to the marionettes. The one who we will miss most is Rose Dittmer. She and her husband, Hubert, were among the early arrivals in Rossmoor. She was a vital force in building a socially friendly, community-oriented place to live. Fairlawn Court was still not paved when they moved into their manor in 1965. She was a founding member of the Dollar Docents. She served as director of Mutual II. For her work, she received the Rossmoor Medal. Rose was instrumental in forming the Activities Council, the flea market, and the Fall Bazaar. She often chaired these events. She donated the Christmas trees that were used to decorate the clubhouse. She was honored with the Citizen of Merit Award in 1975. After 30 years of service to the community, Rose died in September of '95. There was a spontaneous movement to honor her memory. A trellis garden piece was designed by Paul Cornell to honor her memory and located in the Dollar patio. We have talked about the new Entry Plaza and the General Plan Task Force and the legality of the membership fee. Let us now look at other activities of the Golden Rain Foundation. Steve Adams, you may remember from Part 9, was active in the development of the new management contracts with Second and Third Mutual. Steve, at that time, was head of Mutual Operations. He activated the plan to use more outside vendors rather than do major repairs in-house. To facilitate the changes, Paul Donner was promoted to managing the contracted vendors. He would obtain bids for work and carry out the decisions of the board of directors. The Golden Rain does not own all the streets in Rossmoor. Some of them are still controlled by the builders. This was necessary so that heavy equipment can be operated without hindrance as it comes and goes to construction sites. In August, the GRF and the UDC reached an agreement on the transfer of these streets and open spaces when construction is completed. Open spaces are lands within Rossmoor property upon which no construction is permitted. The land will remain in its native state. In another step towards the future, the Golden Rain Foundation appointed a committee to redefine the election districts. These new districts will be similar in population, about 750, and will include all units in an entry. There will be 9 districts. Some of the existing buses used in the valley were not able to climb the hills to the newer units near the summit. Smaller, more powerful buses were purchased to augment the fleet. GRF also sought buses for the handicapped. These paratransit buses were approved in May, but did not become operational until the end of the year. They are obtained with governmental financial support. The Gateway Clubhouse main room was fine in 1965, when the residents first moved into Rossmoor. But now, 30 years later, changing need made it inadequate. Could it be enlarged, or was a replacement called for? In November 1996, a study was undertaken to resolve the question. This became another item for the task force. It will be another few years before action is taken. A step in the reorganization of the Gateway complex was a transfer of those employees not directly connected to the residents. They will be relocated to the Rockview maintenance areas. Plans were also prepared to improve the golf course maintenance facility in the Creekside area. The GRF proposed the construction of replacement buildings, mainly to protect equipment from weather and supply offices for some other services located there, the Rossmoor News, Public Safety, and the church offices. There was opposition to the proposal. This mainly consisted in the desire for resident needs before the needs of the golfers. Another complaint was the damage such construction might cause to the great oaks in the area. There were several public meetings and a town hall hearing on the Creekside facility reconstruction. The GRFs decided to have a vote of the people. The response of the people forced GRF to reconsider the whole project and the task force general plan. The Golden Rain Board, and especially the president, found it difficult to meet the current needs of the residents and make the necessary plans for the future. The board presidents, Ben Wisner, Stanley Turretts, and Howard Grawl, had the difficult job of steering the community during this turbulent period of change. The mutuals were also undergoing changes. Their leadership saw needs for improvements, while residents demanded that coupons be kept down. The 3 major mutuals found this a turbulent time. In their attempts to renovate and make adjustments to meet the changing needs of the members, they were confounded by residents who opposed change. The oldest mutual, First Walnut Creek Mutual, aware of the general deterioration caused by time, sought funds for major renovations of the area. Landscaping, roofing, appliance replacement, etc., would require more funds than the regular coupon would allow. The directors proposed a second mortgage. The current rates were low, and it seemed a good idea. Almost immediately there was opposition. The members did not want any increase in the monthly coupon. An advisory vote was called for. The results told the directors that they needed to seek another solution. A new contract was developed with ECI, the landscape contractor, for changes in the routine maintenance and some major work. New trees were planted. Trees growing in close proximity to buildings were removed. Paths and walkways were leveled or replaced. Roofing and painting were speeded up. Hoping that the residents would see the improvements and the need for continuing the work, the directors again proposed a replacement of the existing loan with another one. It would create a reserve of $8 million for needed repairs. It would require the continuation of the existing coupon for another 12 years. This did not set well with the residents, and a number of meetings were held to explain the benefits. The opposition remained strong. When the votes were counted, the refinancing proposal failed. The mutual was left to increase the coupon. In Second Walnut Creek Mutual, the continuing problem of building slippage concerned the directors. The buildings needed to be restructured. The directors called for more carpenters to speed up repairs. Carports tended to become messy if left to the resident care. The mutual instituted carport inspections to force residents to keep them clean. President Frank Castellotti, in his annual message, noted general improvement. The major concern was a fire on Singing Wood. The entire building of 12 units was destroyed by faulty battery charger in a carport. Care for the residents and the restructuring was to take 2 years. Many residents spoke up on the need for fire safety procedures. Sprinkling systems were suggested for carports. Another safety issue involved autos on the street. Canyonwood has an awkward entrance to Tice Creek Drive. A stop sign was proposed for Tice Creek, allowing the exiting of Canyonwood safely. This was accomplished with the aid of the Golden Rain Foundation. The directors of Second Walnut Creek Mutual appointing a planning committee to look into other areas in need of attention. Our condominium mutual is the largest and most diversified. Third Walnut Creek Mutual has units scattered throughout the valley. They have a variety of needs and concerns: age, design, construction, and accessibility. The directors have heavy responsibility in meeting the demands of the various residents. A variety of problems developed. Third was forced through conferences, arbitration in the courts to seek financial support from UDC Homes for building defects and deferred maintenance. Some units had moisture problems as well. Alteration permits were sought to make corrections. The whole problems of maintenance were centered around cost. There is bound to be opposition. Request for mediation was denied. Long-term president of the mutual, Harry Craig, after several years of trying to solve the problem, resigned. This left the mutual to look for new leadership. The problems of Third Walnut Creek Mutual remained. As we come to the end of this episode, we need to enumerate the accomplishment that makes this place such a wonderful place to live. The residents responded to the call to prepare for emergencies. Earthquakes, floods, fire, and windstorm were met with community cooperation. There were food drives and clothing drives, fundraisers and service projects, helpful individuals and group workers. Rossmoorians heard from politicians such as Dianne Feinstein, Jack Kemp, Gene Wolfe, and Lynn Leach. The Republican Club and the Democratic Club expounded on local and national issues. Then Rossmoors went out and voted in far greater numbers than the national average. The community welcomed some national groups. The Senior Olympics were held here, and the U.S. Lawn Bowling Championships were decided on our greens. People like Rossmoor. Membership was up to 8,700, with an average age of 77.4. There were over 500 resales each year during this period. This gave GRF funds for several projects. There were others in the planning stage. The proposal for a general plan task force would be looked at more closely in the years to come, and we will be there to record it. And until we meet again, this is John Nutley saying thank you for watching.